All right, welcome back. Let's not forget craigsewing.com. That is the website that's designed specifically to be a resource for you on anything you hear on today's show. And certainly if you tune into our radio show every night at 6 p.m. on KCBQ, there's a contact form. It comes directly to me, and I respond to every inquiry we get before my head hits the pillow. Really excited to have you back. Joining me in studio is a good friend of ours, Kurt Wanabo. He did over 350 deals last year right here in San Diego. Wall Street Journal called him the top realtor in this marketplace. He's our real estate elite, and he's really great to have in here to talk about what's happening in the real estate market. Let's go ahead and roll a quick tape of Kurt.
Hi, broker Kurt Wanabo, San Diego Real Estate and Investments. People ask me all the time, what are one of the best places to live in San Diego? First place that comes to mind, the 92130 zip code. Today, I'm going to take you on a tour of the 92130 zip code like you've never seen before. So come on, take a ride with me. It's centrally located and situated just off the coast of the finest beaches San Diego has to offer. With some of the best ranked schools in the county, golf courses.
Welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you're always here and helping us understand, we always pin it at 60 to 90 days what's truly happening. And I don't just say that, but every single time we have you on, you kind of describe what's going on with inventory, median home prices, what you think the market's going to do, and it seems to be spot on almost every time. So good to have you in the studio. We had a great discussion on the radio show this week. I wanted to roll a quick video about the real estate market that we saw on CNBC this week and get your comments on. If we could roll that tape real quick.
Put those numbers into context. What do they mean for me this spring if I'm buying or selling a house?
Well, they reflect the slowing real estate market overall, except if you're selling to an investor. Typical owner who's putting their home up for sale is not selling to an investor. And the huge upmarket that we saw last year is last year's news. Prices are holding, but this is a reflection of the demand for housing is off. That's shown by this big plunge in mortgage rates.
Is that demand being driven by, I suspect, two things? One is a declining affordability, in other words.
So mortgage origination is at a 14-year low.
Right.
That's people getting properties financed. We know the market was going to slow down a bit. Last year was pretty insane. What are we seeing now this year? I mean, that's a national network. Let's talk specifically about San Diego.
Yeah, some of the things that I'm seeing that goes along with that is the fact that inventory has increased. We're almost at levels that we were in the beginning of summer last year. And because of that, and possibly less buyers, what we're seeing is that while offers do come in, many times still a couple offers at a time on a property, buyers aren't as quick to respond to counter offers. They may take their time if they get a counter offer from a seller and wait to see if another property pops up here or there because, again, the inventory is increasing. And another piece of that story that they didn't mention there that I've actually seen is that a lot of the banks, because they're so low applications and they've actually gone through most of the people who are doing refinances, is that they are starting to lower their standards and look for new buyers with lower credit scores or perhaps had short sales or foreclosures on their records before to try and draw in those buyers.
You make a really good point here. Banks make money by lending money.
Absolutely.
And so when mortgage applications go down a little bit, they're going to get a little bit more creative. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to see banks coming out with these subprime products and you're not going to be able to...
I just read an article the other day that a year and a half ago, the bottom line standard for Wells Fargo was 720 credit score. They've now lowered that down to 550, and other banks are starting to follow suit. So they are starting to have to skim and possibly find subprime borrowers out there just because there aren't enough pool of buyers right now.
Well, there's a way to, if you look at 2001 to about 2006, if you could fog a mirror, you could get financing.
Correct.
There's a way to still give financing to someone who's had a short sale because the market crashed, but still has other compensating factors. They have money in the bank.
Right.
Their credit might have been dinged, but they have a W-2 job. They've had it for years. They haven't really missed payments. So there's other compensating factors that banks can look at, and I think you are going to see them open things up a little bit. But there's also a private market that's been dead. A private market could come in, start developing some products, and I think we're on the verge of seeing that happen. in a much more responsible way than we saw in the past.
Right. But previously, you know, they didn't. The one driving thing here is, you know, buyers having equity or some type of stake in the property. It's okay if they're lowering some of the standards on credit scores, as long as they're at least, hopefully, still putting 10, 15, 20% down on the property.
Yeah.
That'll keep the market still a little bit stable.
You got skin in the game, yeah.
If you have skin in the game. The problem is, you know, once they lower credit scores, if they start lowering the amount of money that you have to put into the property in order to buy it, then we can start a whole cycle all over again that we've seen over the past 7, 8, 9 years.
It would be hard to believe that could happen again, but you know,
But you're starting to see signs on the wall, such as originations are low, and what are banks in business to do? Lend money, and they're going to need to find more pools of buyers to entice them to come in.
I wanted to get into the deal with you. Earlier this week on Tuesday, you were on the radio show. Right. Outstanding segment. One of the best real estate segments I think that we've had in the years of doing this show. It was just a great back and forth. You know, unscripted like everything we do, but I just thought the content that came out of our conversation was really powerful. One of the things you talked about was negotiating a deal, and we discussed how there's 17,000 real estate license. I think you pushed back and said there's 20,000.
I think there's 20 now in San Diego.
Right, so 20,000 real estate license. So it's not really tough to get your license, but to represent someone who's buying or selling, involving their biggest assets, their biggest investment, their real estate, and of course their biggest debt, their mortgage, well, that's a whole different ball game. Tell the story real quick about the recent property you had, that it was your listing, you had 10, 15 offers on it. What some of those other offers look like?
Well, you had asked me the question. The discussion was based around, what do agents do? What do they do, especially when representing buyers? And part of that is negotiating the deal. And you asked me, what are some of the important factors to negotiate a deal? And I said, one of them is to pick up the phone and speak to the other agent on the other side of the property. Too many times what I find is that when people want to submit an offer on a property or listing that I have, they simply email the offer over without a phone call before nor after. And we had a situation where we had a property on the market and we had 13 offers on it at the same time. And lo and behold, someone that's a friend of the show here, Glenn Henderson, called at the 11th hour, but made a phone call and asked about what the situation was, what was going on, and what would it take in order for his buyer to get the property.
Yep. And Glenn's another whale in the real estate market. He's our Point Loma, Ocean Beach real estate elite. He's going to be here in actually just a bit. I'd love to hear his side of that story as well. He doesn't even know what he's walking into. But you guys are pros.
Right. So in that situation, when we had 13 offers, I would say maybe only about 3 of the other agents actually called us, and the other 10 do what I call blind submitting an offer, which means they just email it over without any explanation.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absurd. And I guess the takeaway here for you is, if you're working on buying a home or selling a home, and you're seeing signs of this out of the real estate professional you're working with, I really do encourage you to go to craigsewing.com. Let me facilitate introductions to one of our elite that are in your marketplace. You identified a few different questions that you think you should ask an agent. Selflessly speaking, where you're not coming in here saying, hey, call me, call Kurt. You're in Carmel Valley. I know you do cover all of San Diego, but you wanted to give these tips on specific questions you should ask your realtor to make sure you're working with the right type of professional.
Right. So these are questions that if you're a seller and you're going to be interviewing a listing agent, what should you be asking them? And so I came up with a couple here that are very important. One of them is asking the agent, what is their sales to list price ratio? And what that means is that's a metric that actually measures out real estate agents in regards to how well they do. It measures and combines how well they price a property, how well they market a property, and how well they negotiate offers as well.
Now, if I'm a realtor, well, I'm not a realtor, but would a typical realtor be able to even answer that question, or
well, what's interesting about that is many agents may not know what it is, and so if they don't, then that's not a good sign or somebody that you should be working with.
If they look at you cross-eyed.
Right. Other agents may have very poor list to sales price ratios, and to give you some reference point, an idea what this is. So let's say you list a property at $1 million, but it sells for $900. That'd be a 90% sales to list price ratio.
Okay.
And then when an agent has a track record and has sold 50, 40, 50, hundreds of homes, they start to get an average list to sales price ratio.
And they're going to try and keep track of that.
Right, absolutely. And so some agents, theirs are very poor. And so they may not always want to reveal that to a client. And so it is very important. I would say of all the appointments that I go on, maybe only 1 out of maybe 6 or 7 clients actually ask that of me. And I love it because it means that they've done their research and they know what's important to them to help them get the highest and best price.
Next question.
Next question is, how many homes have you sold in this zip code or area? Some areas prices vary just based off of what location it's in, what school districts it's in. So it's important to price it right and know the area that you're working in and listing a property.
I think that's an important point to make for at least this show. People tune in, we talk about real estate, financial planning, consumer advocacy, but specifically to real estate, you'll notice we just had Pete Middleton on, who's a top-tier La Jolla agent. We have Kurt Wanaba, who's a top-tier North County Carmel Valley agent. In a bit, we're going to have Melissa Tucci, a metro market expert, Glenn Henderson, Point Loma, Ocean Beach. Now, all of you can cover many parts of San Diego, but we've intentionally designed this show specific so we bring experts on these micro markets.
Right.
And it really is important if you're going to buy somewhere, someone who's been there and does business there. All housing markets are local. So, next one.
The next question is, do you have a cancellation policy, or what is the length of your agreement? Many times agents will get their clients locked into a contract, and if they don't have a relationship or know anything about that agent, they can move forward and then find out this agent isn't experienced or isn't delivering on what it is that they promised. And they may be locked into a contract with that person and can't get out of it. So it's important to understand how long your agreement is with the agent, and or if they will allow you to get out of it, even if things change in your life. Maybe you don't get that job across the country that you planned and you might not need to sell anymore. Very important question to ask. Next one I would say would be,
last one here.
Yeah. How much money would you spend on marketing my home out of your commissions? So this is important because every agent charges a little bit different, and most
you hear of these discount brokers and
a lot of people's perception might be that every penny that an agent makes in commission goes strictly into their pocket, where that's not the case with all of them. Many times agents will reinvest their commissions into marketing the property and spending thousands of dollars on numerous resources such as magazine or aerial video or whatever the case may be. So it's very important for the consumer to understand that and not assume that everyone has the same marketing plan.
Great tips. I want people to learn more about you. Go to brokerkurt.com. If you want to learn more about Kurt, he's got a lot of videos set up here. You can see all of his listings. He's got a whole bunch. Like I said, he did over 300 deals last year. He's having a great year this year as well.